So about the death penalty. So here is where we are as a country.
Introduce yourself.
My name's Ivan Sudovsky. I'm the death penalty coordinator of the group. If you can see, all the red states are where the death penalty is still existing, and the blue states have abolished, and the dark blue states are now in moratorium.
God, there's still a long way to go.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we actually have 25 states that maintain the death penalty, and we've got 21 states that have abolished, and 4 states in moratorium. So it's kind of a good balance. If you'll notice the Northeast, here we are, Pennsylvania. We're literally surrounded by states that have abolished, and we're the last state in the Northeast that has the death penalty.
Question,
Yeah.
those 2 states in blue next to Texas, which ones are those?
So New Mexico and Colorado. Colorado's a moratorium. Yeah.
So we're a moratorium?
Yeah.
Pennsylvania?
Uh-huh.
It's just on hold?
Yep. Wolf did that his first
Okay.
year, I believe.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And that's just by executive order, essentially?
Yeah, like gubernatorial
Right.
decree or whatever that's called.
Yeah. And up until recently, New Hampshire would have been brown.
I'm sorry?
New Hampshire would have been one of the red states.
Yeah, that's
Until
true.
recently.
Right.
Yeah.
So they abolished this year.
wow.
This early this fall or well, recently,
If you know, yeah.
spring.
Gosh.
Yeah, so there's that. We've got Oregon, California, Colorado, and Pennsylvania in moratorium.
Is there any possibility that it could actually be blocked in Pennsylvania as opposed to
Well,
suspended?
there was an effort to have the death penalty overturned by the judiciary to challenge the constitutionality of it, but that was either overturned or they wouldn't hear it.
Oh, that was by the Philadelphia
That was by Krasner, yeah.
Philadelphia AG, right?
Right.
Wow.
So there have been fewer and fewer executions from a high of 98, and we're down at 20, which matches a modern,
Nationwide, 20?
a modern minimum.
How many of those were in Texas?
About 8 this year. Yeah. 13 last year for Texas. They really-
Where is the peak there?
Yeah,
The
what
peak
year
is
is that?
99.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's been a little bump up under Trump, just the last 3 years, but it's really kind of negligible. I mean, we were at 20 executions in 2016, and then 23 in 17, 25 last year, and this year it's 20 with two more scheduled.
You mentioned Trump. Is he not pushing ahead with federal executions? I thought I heard.
They've tried that. Let me
No,
get
yeah,
my.
okay.
Right. So they did have, this was actually just updated yesterday. There was a group of 5 federal prisoners that were scheduled for execution in December and January. 1 got a stay on his own, and then 4 executions have been blocked by U.S. District Attorney Judge Tanya Chutkan,
Wow.
given that the execution procedures are potentially unlawful. The plaintiffs argue that that using a single drug, pentobarbital, instead of a 3-drug cocktail, which is most often used, violates the Federal Death Penalty Act of 1994. The act mandates that the federal government use the same methods of execution as the sentencing state. So for lack of drugs, provided us, usually by the European Union, these men have been spared their lives. It seems a good thing.
Permanently?
And that was just
Permanently?
updated Wednesday.
Permanently or just a stay?
It's just a stay. I mean,
Yeah.
they have to, it has to be heard and whatever, heard.
I'm not clear on the federal issue. Like, let's say, for instance, you have a serial killer
Yeah.
who's apprehended in a state like New Jersey
Mhm.
where there's no death penalty.
Mhm.
What would the feds do? Transport the person? Like, let's say, if in federal court,
Yeah.
they rule that this person should be put to death, and the individual is in a state, finds himself or herself in a state
What's that?
where there is no death penalty,
Oh, I see.
what's the federal procedure with?
Yeah, well, I think they would have to go with the average procedure, which is 3 drugs, not just 1. But we'll find out. I mean, we'll find out soon enough because these, I guess these court cases will be.
But surely federal law will override the
Not according
local law.
to
Not
this
according
Death
to that.
Penalty Act of 1994, apparently.
Oh,
They have to
really?
follow the state
The state?
procedure.
Ah.
Yeah.
But
So-
if something takes place, and there is one case, I believe, where the crime was committed in a national park or somewhere, then it becomes a federal case.
Well, once you cross state lines,
Yeah.
then it's
Crossing
a...
state lines.
But if it's on federal property,
Well, if it's on federal property,
or
yeah.
a post office or something, I don't know. I think that's where federal steps.
30th Street Station's federal.
Ah.
That's what we're discovering.
So partly what's driving the drop in executions is the really extreme drop in death sentences, going from a peak of over 300 to under 50 these days per year. That's national.
It's declining.
And we've got great news in Pennsylvania. I'll just read this. It says, inmates sentenced to death in Pennsylvania will no longer be subjected to solitary confinement and other isolationist policies after their attorneys and the State Department of Corrections reached a settlement on Monday. 5 inmates working with the ACLU and Abolitionist Law Center filed a federal class action lawsuit last year alleging that the department's policies in housing inmates sentenced to death violated the 8th and the 14th Amendments, which prohibit cruel and unusual punishment and ensure equal protection, respectively. The settlement brings Pennsylvania out of the penological dark ages and makes it a national leader in treating all incarcerated persons humanely, said Witold Volchak, legal director of the ACLU of Pennsylvania, I think out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, how many states have actually done that?
That I don't know. I just found this out this week.
So is the ACLU a big player in the death penalty issue?
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah, it's a big issue for them. And our local, somewhat celebrity, Jimmy Dennis, who was exonerated from death row, he's read in Rolling Stone, just published yesterday, How to Survive Death Row.
Gosh.
He's a Philadelphia native, Northwest Philly. He was on death row for nearly 20 years, wrongly convicted.
And that was in Rolling Stone, this?
It's in this week's Rolling Stone, yeah. He had an alibi, number one, and he wasn't as tall as the suspect who did the actual killing.
Certain facts, unfortunately, don't always matter.
Yeah. And he had...
And he's still in jail?
no, he's out.
Oh, he's out, good.
Yep.
Well, it's a desire for revenge.
Yeah,
That's it.
that's
To
true.
grab anyone.
So here's the article by Philadelphia Inquirer about the ending solitary confinement. After nearly 2 decades in death row solitary confinement in the Pennsylvania State Prison, Jimmy Dennis could no longer endure the humiliation of being strip searched and shackled to move between the cage of his 8 by 12-foot cell
God.
to the cage of a workstation and the law library, to the cage of the small fenced-in exercise yard, and then the cage of a stall in the secure visiting room where his daughter would cry when she saw him in handcuffs and chains on the other side of the glass barrier.